Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
I kept a secret from my wife and my congregation.
A pastor's fall from grace.
I was using heroin and meth every day.
You preached high. You used drugs in your children's bathroom.
A wife's struggle to heal.
Tell him the truth.
The kids and I didn't deserve this. He hurt me.
And an Olympian's painful confession.
You did take performance-enhancing drugs.
That's correct.
So you lied. This is going to be a changing day in your life.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
It matters to you. That's what I want to talk about. Are you ready in the booth? Let's do it. Go, Dr. Phil. Well, as much as we hate to admit it, we've all told a lie at one point or another. True? Yes. Don't lie now. But what if you told one big lie and you constantly lived in fear that everybody would find out? The public might perceive you as someone who has it all, but deep down inside, you knew you were living a lie. Now, my first guest, Kim, is still reeling from the devastating truth her pastor husband, Brian, has been keeping.
From the outside looking in, people think we live the perfect life, 5 healthy, wonderful children. Brian being in the ministry and a pastor, when in reality, it was all a lie.
I kept a secret from my wife and my family and my congregation. I was addicted to pain pills for 8 years. A year and a half ago, I switched to heroin and meth.
I never thought anything like this could ever happen to me in my life.
I felt like a hypocrite because everyone viewed me as a man of God. I was using heroin and meth every day, at least 4 or 5 times a day.
I knew that he was taking pain medication for a back problem. I just assumed that it wasn't an issue anymore.
This is the main bathroom that I used to come into to use. I would turn the shower on. I would just sit down here, and I'd put everything out on the ground, and I would do my thing. This right here is my toolbox. I would hide drugs in there. I could put anything I wanted in here, and nobody would know it was here. In the morning, I would get in my truck. I normally would keep everything up here. The first thing I would do would be to find a spot to park. I would start to use my drugs. Then I would lay back and kind of let the initial effect wear off, and then I would head off to work. I felt like a fraud when I would preach sermons on medication. I counseled people when I was using heroin or meth.
2 months ago, Brian was texting someone very strangely over and over, and he said that I wasn't allowed to look at his phone. I knew that he was lying to me about something.
I thought to myself, what normal person does this? My priorities were so messed up, and I thought I have to have help.
He then told me the extent of his addiction. He brought out all of the drugs and the different paraphernalia that he had, and he admitted everything. I was looking at a stranger. For the first time, I saw an addict, and that was very hard to absorb. I don't believe anybody in ministry has any idea what was going on with Brian. No one knows. I think when people find out, they're going to be extremely shocked.
I checked myself into rehab.
It was some of the darkest days in my life.
My life's harder now than it was before I went into rehab. It's like walking on a tightrope. There is no room for mistake, and if I slip up, it's over.
I feel like the last 10 years of my life have been a lie. I have a hard time trusting Brian. If he does use again, I can't stay.
So, where are you with this now? And what is your hope? What do you want to see happen?
I really want restoration for my family. He knows that if he uses again, I won't stay. For now, if he's willing to fight and stay clean, then I will stay for our children, for myself. For him, I love him. But it's hard to realize how many years have gone by that there were lies, and
What is your question for me?
I just don't know where to begin the healing process. You know, I've carried the weight of my family for years, not really knowing, but now looking back, I realize that. I haven't had time to grieve or absorb my reality, because what I knew as my reality wasn't real. So how do I move on? You know, I have consequence from the addiction to pick up: our business, financial, our children, our marriage. I have to get to know him again, because I don't really even know him.
Where do you come down in all of this now? What do you want to see happen? What's your question for me?
I want to see my family restored. I want to fight this thing with everything I have, and I know that for years I've been managing all of my feelings and emotions, whether good or bad. I've been medicating, and that's how I've managed for this amount of time. And now I'm in a position where I have nothing to manage those feelings with, and I'm scared to death that I will lose everything because of it.
You understand there's been tremendous collateral damage just beyond the drugs, because with the drugs, particularly in the fact that you were in the ministry and that you were looked on as a spiritual leader and a guide, and I'm sure counseled parishioners, I'm sure, about drugs and kids and things across the years. That's the problem with drugs, particularly in your role. There's a lot of deception that goes with it. I mean, you use drugs in your children's bathroom.
Yeah.
Upstairs in the house, and you lied about that, right? You took a family out to dinner, and you thought, we're all out to dinner. You know, we're all sitting down here having a nice dinner, and he's going in the bathroom and getting high.
Yes.
Right? And so now you look back on that and say, I can't even trust that. That time that we had as a family having dinner, he was actually going in the bathroom and getting high.
Yes.
So that's the sense of betrayal that you feel.
Of course.
You preached high.
On pain medication. Yeah.
You counseled people high. And the community knows nothing about this until this show airs.
Absolutely.
Right.
So people are going to
Be very shocked, because we look like the perfect family. I mean, our kids, we have 5 healthy children, what I thought was a really good marriage. We appear to have it all together, but I think a lot of us do that. We wear a mask every day. We act like everything is okay.
Why choose this particular forum to do this?
Because it is happening everywhere. And it's happening to your neighbor in the suburbs, and people don't realize it, and no one's talking about it. When I thought of a heroin addict, I've never been in this drug world. I thought of somebody with scars on their face, no teeth. It wasn't the picture of a pastor. And that's the misconception that people are having.
So you're wanting to use this situation
Absolutely.
to raise awareness with people that this happens in suburbia. It can happen anywhere.
Yes.
Any walk of life, anywhere. Okay. All right, next, what Kim and Brian's 15-year-old daughter now thinks about her stepfather. We'll be right back.
I never thought this could happen to somebody in my family. I was really shocked.
Julia had to be that person I could lean on.
It's really hard to see my mom like that, because you know you just can't fix everything.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil. They've dated for over 3 years.
I want to see a ring on my fingers or goodbye.
He says he's not ready.
I've been burned. I do not want it to happen again.
Will he commit or quit?
You need to make up your mind.
You gonna marry this girl?
And a wedding shocker
You found out you married somebody that was still married.
with an unbelievable twist.
Are you still intimate with him?
That's Monday.
Before I found out about Brian's drug addiction, I had a miscarriage. I almost died. And, you know, there were questions. Did I lose the baby because of the addiction? And that was really difficult to even think that that could have played a role in losing that child. So there's a lot of hurt. It's hard. It's hard.
Kim feels deceived by her pastor husband, Brian. Now let's see how their 15-year-old daughter has been affected by all of this.
Julia, our oldest child, understood what was going on. She had to be that person I could lean on, and that was a lot of pressure for her.
I never thought this could happen to somebody in my family. I was really shocked. Why would he do that to our family behind closed doors? We have a lot of secrets, just as everyone else does. Before I found out about my dad and drugs, we didn't really see eye to eye all the time. He would forget things sometimes, so we had a lot of arguments about that. It's hard to just jump into being buddy-buddy and be like, oh, it's okay. I can't really take back words that were said. It was really hard watching my mom go through everything. Sometimes when it was just me and her, then she'd cry in front of me, and that was when I think we need each other most. It's really hard to see my mom like that because, you just can't fix everything.
What's your reaction to hearing her talk about
It's
that?
hard to watch. My kid's been really affected by this. Julia's the oldest, so she knew what a rehab was. My younger children don't really quite understand. He never expressed any differences in personality. It's not like they experienced this drug addict father and then he was gone. He sat down and played with them. He made dinner. He came home. It was...
I wore a mask for years because I was scared. I was ashamed. I felt like a hypocrite. I was a hypocrite. And I knew once it progressed to the heroin and meth that if she found out that I would lose everything. I would lose my wife. I would lose my kids.
I've often said addiction is a family disease, and I hate that your 15-year-old was pulled into this.
The night he left, I just laid on my floor and cried. And I looked at all 5 of my children snuggling my bed. And I had no one. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to lean on her, but she was going to be there with me with the kids. She knows what's going on. And I did try to hide my feelings from them. I did go away because I didn't want to be strong for them, but it was very difficult.
But she sat up nights with you.
She did.
And you cried and you
to know.
talked.
She wanted to be there for me because she knew that I was going into my closet and crying when the kids would go to bed so that I could make sense of it all and find peace.
We're using this situation to educate others.
Yeah.
Then I got to tell you, you don't ask children to deal with adult issues.
I agree.
As overwhelming as it is to you, can you imagine what it's like to a 15-year-old or younger that doesn't have any ability to make a decision to leave or to stay or to cope or to not? I mean, they're helpless. They're in a situation that they have no power to change it, but yet they have the burden of its reality. And that's the worst situation that a child can possibly be in.
Just in that moment, I don't think you really think things through because...
I said you do what you know how to do at the time. And let me tell you something about him. I don't know whether you're going to remain clean and sober or not at this point. Neither do you.
Right.
That's a day at a time. What I can tell you is that this is a serious disease. It is resistant to treatment. It is subject to relapse. But it is manageable. And because of what you were using, the opiates you were using, the meth that you were using, you have brain damage.
Yeah.
You have brain damage. It may take 18 months or more for it to heal if it does.
Right.
He's not back.
I see pieces of him.
But he is not back yet.
I know.
He's going to question his relationship with God. He's going to question his spirituality. He is going to find a difficult time remembering certain things. I'm talking about you like you're not here, but I'm just telling you that this is the reality. He has brain damage the same as if he'd gone through a windshield of a car. So you have a tough road ahead here, and you are subject to some real serious emotional problems because of what's happened. You've had some vulnerable times. You've been through a miscarriage.
6 weeks before I found out.
6 weeks before you found out.
And I was 4 months pregnant.
Mentally, emotionally. I mean, when you're 4 months pregnant and that happens, that is, the impact on your body is huge. The impact on your mind, your emotions, your hormones are huge. Then, 6 months after that, he comes in and says, oh, by the way, your entire existence, it's a lie, it's a sham, I'm a heroin addict. Okay, so this gets dumped on you. It gets dumped on you, and you're saying, oh my gosh, what next?
Well, and that's how I feel. I feel like every day I wake up and, you know, I get dressed and I look like this and I try to keep going on, but I'm tired. And it's hard because I know that I'm trying to be strong for my kids, for Brian, but I haven't really had a time to grieve.
And you haven't given your feelings a voice in all of this. Now, when I come back, I'm going to give Kim an opportunity to do something that is critically important in putting her foot on the road to having this family get a chance to return to some degree of normalcy. We'll be right back.
Every day right now is a challenge. I worry that Brian may use again. To say that I didn't think about it would be very naive.
I'm back with Kim and Brian. Now, this is a family that is spinning at this point because after 10 years of marriage, Kim has discovered that her pastor husband, Brian, is in fact a drug addict. Kim, I'm going to ask you to do something very important right now. I want you to look Brian in the eye, and I know that's hard to do.
Yeah.
I want you to look him in the eye right now. Don't look away. Just look each other in the eye. And I'm going to talk to you, but I don't want you to look away. Don't look at me. Because once you found out that the man you thought you married, the man that you thought was your light, rock, was an addict and a liar, you haven't really looked at him. Look at him now. Is if there's ever a chance to overcome this for real, then you got to deal with the truth. And you've got to tell him right now from your heart what this has done to you. Tell him the truth. Give your feelings a voice. Don't worry about his feelings and emotions. Give your feelings a voice. Look at him. Talk through the tears. Just give your feelings a voice. Tell him you have no idea what you did to me.
You have no idea how hard it's been, how badly I've been hurt, how empty I feel, how alone I have felt, how much pressure I've had on me to care for our family. I feel like every day is a struggle. And I haven't had time to... I feel like I've lost myself because I've lost you.
Don't talk from your head. Talk from your heart. Tell him what he did to you.
He hurt me.
Tell him, say, how dare you do this to me and our family? How dare you?
You betrayed us, our trust, our children. I just don't know how you could have done that to us. I try to make sense of it because I think initially you blame yourself that you're not enough, or the kids, and you ask yourself why. But I need to know the answer to that. I feel like I'm constantly asking myself, why did you hurt us so bad?
Tell him what he took away from you.
You took away.
Don't say he, tell him. You took it from me. Tell him.
You took away our marriage, our family, our trust. I just want you to know I'm not going to stay. If you use again, I won't, and you know that.
No.
You know, you've taken so much from me and the kids, and you really have to own this. This recovery is yours. This is your addiction. The kids and I didn't deserve this.
I know.
Tell him what you want.
I want to see the man that I married. I want to see you in your eyes again because you haven't been there for so long. I want to see the father that I know you are. I know you love those kids. I know you're an amazing husband, friend. But I know the addiction is taken all of those things and has brought a new person in our life. I want us to have a life together where we can laugh and have dreams and goals and not just exist. I feel like my life right now is just existing. And that's hard.
Tell him you deserve better.
And I deserve better. I know I do.
No, you do.
The kids deserve better.
Do you believe he can do this?
I know he can do this. He knows that I'm his biggest supporter in life. I know the man he is. And I know what addiction has taken from it, stole from his life. But I know what he can become. I've always believed that. He has great things that he's going to do. And that's why I'm here.
Then tell him, I believe in you, but you got to show me.
I believe so much in you. You know that. I believe in you more than anybody in this world. But you have to prove to me. Trust has to be earned. It is something that's going to take a long time. And this is something you have to do on your own. I can't do it for you. And that's very hard for me, you know that, because I like to do everything for everyone. But this is the one thing I can't do for you. You have to want this.
We'll be right back.
I am Marion Jones. People hailed me as one of the fastest women in the world. I had the fame, I had the fortune, I had everything, and I lost it all because I lied.
It is with a great amount of shame that I tell you that I have betrayed your trust.
My next guest seemed to have it all, but her world fell apart because she chose to lie at a time when the truth mattered most.
On the track, Marion Jones awed fans with her speed and superstar smile.
In the 2000 Olympics, I became the first woman to win 5 medals in a single Olympic Games. People hailed me as one of the fastest women in the world. After the 2000 Games, I was definitely ranked as the best athlete in the world at that time. I won pretty much every race that I ran. I was world champion in the 100, 200 meters. I was on the cover of Time magazine. I was Athlete of the Year, ESPY award winner. I had the fame, I had the fortune. Everything seemed to be going in the right direction. I had everything, and I lost it all because I lied.
In 2003, Marion was subpoenaed to testify in a federal investigation into illegal steroid distribution. She was granted immunity from prosecution. It's called Queen for a Day, but she had to tell the truth.
I was given performance-enhancing drugs, and unbeknownst to me, they were what was termed later as the clear, or THG. I was subpoenaed by the federal government to be a part of the investigation into Balco. Towards the end of the interview, they pull out this little vial. It has a substance in it. At that moment, I realized that what he's, shaking in front of my face is something that had been given to me. In the blink of an eye, I thought about the years and years that I had trained. I thought about the lifestyle that I was living. If I told them that I had been given this substance, all of it could potentially be taken away. The federal investigator asked me about the substance and if I recognized it, and I told him that I didn't, and it was a lie. He asked me if I had ever taken a performance-enhancing drug called the Clear, and I told him no, and that was a lie. He asked me if I had ever taken any performance-enhancing drug. I told him no, I hadn't, and it was a lie.
Okay, now Marion has written a new book describing her fall from grace and her journey to rebuild her life, and it's called On the Right Track. So welcome, Marion.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
I probably should recuse myself from this interview because I have been a huge fan of yours for many years. Tell me why you decided at this point to do this book and talk about this, because it would be so much easier for you to just stay in the background on this, right, and live your life on a much smaller stage.
Well, for a lot of reasons, I decided to write the book. For so long, my story was written for me. And I felt that I owed it to my family, I owed it to my fans, my supporters around the world to share with them, in my own words, my journey. Even bigger than that, Dr. Phil, I have 3 little kids at home, and I teach my kids, my husband and I want to be a living example to them, that once you make a mistake, your life is not over. It's what you do after that, and I wanted for them to see that I did not give up, that I continued to help people make better lives for themselves by looking at my story and hopefully seeing the struggles that I've been through and making it better for them.
I'm a fan of the book, and I really recommend you read this book. It's not about athletics. It's about being a human being and finding that inner strength. But you talk about what happened in there. In your view, first off, you did take performance-enhancing drugs.
That's correct. I was sitting in front of federal investigators in 2003, and they were showing me substances. They were pulling things out of their bag. I mean, this was in the span of an hour. And they shook something in front of my face, and I recognized it as something that had been given to me. But in that span of 30 seconds, I made the decision to lie because I didn't want to lose my reputation. I didn't want everything that came along with all of that, and so I decided to lie.
Now, you had been given immunity.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
They said as long as you tell the truth, whatever, you're going to walk out of here.
Nothing can happen to you.
Legally,
correct.
But you knew when you answered that question that your reputation, your medals, everything you'd worked for would go down in a split second.
Would be gone.
So they put you in a bind, so you lied.
That's correct.
And at the time that you first took them, they were giving you these performance-enhancing drugs, and you didn't know what they were.
That's correct.
Was there a time, and I know the answer to some of these, but I want you to have a chance to talk about this. Was there a time when you did become aware that you clearly were not taking a supplement, you were taking a performance-enhancing?
Yes, in 2003, when the federal investigators showed me this substance, and I put it all together that what was in the news for months. I don't know if many people remember the Balco scandal and everything, all the athletes that were involved. That's when I realized that what was given to me was indeed this clear that everybody had been talking about in the news.
And you understand people are really skeptical about that.
I understand.
And they're very skeptical about it because you are obviously intelligent.
Correct.
You are a dialed-in, focused person. And they're skeptical that somebody would just come give you some unknown benign substance and you would take it and not know what it was. They're skeptical of that.
And I understand that. But I would like people to understand is that this is not just a random person who, knocked on my door and said, take this. This is somebody whom I trusted. This is somebody who was in my immediate inner circle, whom I thought wouldn't do anything to harm me.
And you thought this was flaxseed oil?
That's correct.
So at no time in your mind did you ever believe that you were cheating?
That's correct.
So you didn't cross the finish line in the Olympics or anywhere and have that tarnished because in the back of your mind you thought, I just won this race, but I had to cheat to do it.
Nope. When I crossed the finish line in Sydney, I was overcome with emotion from knowing that I had trained hard, that I was blessed with an incredible amount of talent, and that's the reason for the celebration.
At what point did you decide to come clean and tell the truth?
Anybody who tells a lie and you have to tell more lies to cover it up. That's what a lie does. You have to tell more and more until it just gets out of control. By 2007, I had already had my first child. I was pregnant with my second child, and I knew that I couldn't carry it anymore, that I wanted to start fresh. So I decided to plead guilty to lying to federal investigators.
We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about what it was like for Marion, because when she pled guilty, jail time was assigned. What was it like? We'll be right back.
March 5th, 2008, I walked inside of Carswell Federal Institution. I was a prisoner. Carswell smelled like a sweaty locker room that ended up in a public restroom. My time in Carswell was definitely the next step to hell.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil.
I want to see a ring on my fingers or goodbye.
After 3 years,
So you can either commit or quit.
is he ready?
You going to marry this girl?
That's Monday.
Marion Jones was once the world's top female athlete, a big winner at the 2000 Sydney Olympics. Now she's an admitted steroid user and convicted felon. And today she got the maximum sentence in a New York courtroom.
It is with a great amount of shame that I stand before you and tell you that I have betrayed your trust.
March 5th, 2008, I walked inside of Carswell Federal Institution. I was no longer Marion Jones as just a prisoner. One of the first things that I was required to do was a strip search. Carswell smelled like a sweaty locker room that ended up in a public restroom. Many nights I could not sleep. I feared for my safety. The guards would come in several times a night, slamming the doors, just doing everything to try and break you. A month and a half into my sentence, my roommate wanted to pick a fight. When I tried to leave, she blocked me from leaving. So I defended myself. I kicked her, I hit her, I did whatever I could. Could be the fastest woman in the world and have a hard time trying to get out, and that's really what it came down to. The fight landed me in solitary confinement for over 48 days. My time in solitary was definitely the next step to hell, but when I had so much time to reflect on my life, I made a decision that I control what happens to me. You make mistakes, but it's what you do after the mistakes that ultimately you are hopefully judged by.
Well, Marion's written a new book called On the Right Track, and you talk in the book about the fact that you think, as terrible as it was, that this was actually a blessing for you.
Yes, no doubt.
Why?
Well, I tell people, Dr. Phil, that very few of us as adults get an opportunity to spend so much quiet time reflecting on who we are. Well, I had 6 months of nothing but my thoughts, figuring out who I was, who I really wanted to be, and I don't think I would have, I say it's a blessing because I don't think I would have come to that point if I hadn't have gone to prison. I don't think I would have been in a place to really prioritize my life and figure out what's important and what's not important, and that life is not about sport. It's about how you can give back, how you can help, and I had to be put in prison for 6 months to realize that, but in a way, I'm glad I did. Sure, I know that I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today without having gone through that.
Would it be a worse transgression for you to have cheated in the races than it would be to have lied to the federal prosecutors?
Yes. And I say that because, you know, God has given me this gift and this talent, and to have done something knowingly, I think is worse. You know, a lot of people might not be happy to hear it than to have lied.
Skeptics will say, you know, it's one thing for her to say, yeah, she lied about something she didn't know about, but she will never, ever come clean and admit that she cheated. And you are clear. There is no equivocation in your mind or voice. You never consciously made a decision to take a performance-enhancing drug.
100% clear. And I tell people this, that I paid the ultimate sacrifice. Like, I have spent 6 months in prison, Dr. Phil. I have, my reputation has been dragged through the mud. The fame, the fortune, all of that is gone. And now I'm at a point where, how can everything that I've done, how can it help change the lives of people? How can it help people make better decisions? And I feel blessed that I've had the opportunity to get back into sport now and hopefully inspire and motivate people. I mean, this past season, I played for the Tulsa Shock. I was a 34-year-old rookie with 3 kids, and having been through everything that I did, and people ask me, why did I decide to go back into sport? Why did I put myself out there again? And I tell folks, I say, you know, I hope that when people see me on the court, I inspire them that whatever they're dealing with in their own life, whether it's divorce, loss of job, death in the family, if they see me and everything I've been through, and I can turn my world around in 2.5 years and be a rookie in the WNBA, that anybody can change their situation around.
Well, I have a problem with what happened at the federal level, because I think there can be an abuse of authority. And I think if federal prosecutors can get somebody in and say, okay, we're going to give you immunity against any legal consequences here, but the questions we're going to ask you can cause you to incriminate yourself hugely in every aspect of your life. You're between a rock and a hard place at that point. So it's like, either ruin your life or go to jail.
Ruin your life or ruin your life.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's nowhere to turn, there's nowhere to run. And I have a problem with that. Life is good.
Yeah, life is so much better. You know, things are in order in my life, and I'm really on the right track. I see my message and what I've shared with people. I see people get it, that when encountering difficult situations in your life, that you need to take a break. That's what I tell people. Consult somebody with life experience who will give it to you straight. Like, Dr. Phil, that's not a good idea. You know, think it through, and then make a wiser decision.
You're making it work, and I'm proud of you for doing it. And I'm proud of you for writing this book and coming here and talking about it as well. Marion Jones, thank you so much. Are there ways to spot a liar? I'll tell you what I think when we come back. Talked a lot today about how a lie can destroy your life, but the question that everybody always asks me is, how is it possible to know if someone is lying to you? Do y'all think you can tell when somebody's lying to you? Do you really? If you think you can tell when somebody's lying to you, raise your hand. Okay, well, there are telltale signs that everybody hears about, right? There's even a show on TV now called Lie to Me, and they talk about all of these things. And one of the things they say is, and I say there's research about this, that too much or too little eye contact, like if somebody's staring at you like a dead trout, there's a good chance that they may be lying to you, or if they won't look you in the eye at the time. Overemphasizing details. If somebody is trying to really deflect and not get you thinking, then there are those that say, well, if they overemphasize obscure points that have nothing to do with it, they're trying to filibuster so you don't ask another question, bad sign. Fidgeting, you know, as the person you're talking to, all nervous and everything. You often see kids do this when they're telling a tale, you know, they're all over the place. There are those that say touching your nose. If somebody touches their nose, that means they're lying. and they have their lips pursed where they're kind of breathing real fast instead of in a relaxed way, that is a telltale sign of lying. And you'll see that all over the internet, all over research. But I got some news for you. There's not one study that suggests that those things help you predict when somebody's lying. And they do this simply by having somebody come in and lie and have people judge based on those. Then they have somebody come in and tell the truth and have somebody judge based on those. And they've never been able to show that you can find a liar any better by looking at those factors than any others. So when you go home and you're looking at your husband and he's fidgeting, it may just mean that he's wanting to go do something else while you're talking. It may not mean that he's lying. I'm just saying. We'll be right back. Now, Brian, I just had you and Kim sit down and I had you listen. I didn't ask you to say anything. I had you listen because she needs to give a voice to her feelings. And there's something else that I'm going to ask you to do.
Okay.
Dr. Urschel is the chief medical strategist for interhealth.com. And he is an addiction specialist that is world-renowned. He's in Dallas, Texas. And I'm going to ask you to fly there and sit down with him because I want him to medically manage your cravings because I think he can take those cravings away 95+% and give you a huge leg up on getting through this first period of time.
Thank you.
You need to be involved in Al-Anon. You need to be there, I mean, with religious commitment. And we're going to offer whatever resources to you we can for you and for the children to get through this. We're closing ranks around you guys, okay? We're going to turn this around because you deserve to have what it is that you want. So we're going to make this resource. All right, I want to thank Marion Jones for being here today. Her new book, On the Right Track, is in bookstores now, and everyone in the audience is going home with a copy. Thanks for being here. So long.